Boom. How you doing, Tabitha?
I'm great. How are you?
You excited?
Sure.
Sure. A little nervous? Okay. So I'm going to get it started. So what's up, you guys? Welcome back to Wheal Talk. I am your host, Anthony. Today I have a very special guest. I know I say this all the time for the people that I invite, but the reason what makes her so special is that she was my physical therapist when I was at Sharp Rehab. What's the name again of the actual rehab?
Yeah, so it's Sharp Memorial Hospital, and it's the Allison DeRose Rehabilitation Center.
Okay, so that's where I was at when I ended up with my injury. I believe I was there for like a month and a half or maybe like a month and a week. But she was my physical therapist. She was actually my first physical therapist that came into my room and just, you know, that's where the process starting of me learning how to get around in the chair and just how to maneuver with it and just find out how to be some form of independent, right? So, Tabitha, I'd like to do a check-in, okay?
Sweet.
So, let's just start with your name. What is your profession, and how long have you been doing what you're doing today?
So my name is Tabitha Bonnie Roseboom.
Okay.
What was the second question?
What is your profession?
So I'm a physical therapist,
Okay.
licensed physical therapist. I have a master's degree in physical therapy.
Nice.
And I've been working at Sharp for my entire career, and that's been 24 years.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you're a pro. You're like, yeah. I thought you had I have my wife's cousin. His name is Pat. He was there when you were there, and he got injured 2 years before me. So he has 15 years in. So my guess was that you had like 15 years as a physical therapist, but 25 years.
24.
Oh, 24.
25 in February.
25. Yeah. Wow. Man, that's crazy. So,
Yeah, and I only work in the rehab center for the last 21 or 20, I think 20 actually years in the rehab center.
So you've been in that location for that long?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It looks very nice today.
It does?
It looks very nice compared to when I was there. It's gonna sound a little messed up. It looked like a semi-nice, ugly-looking jail.
Yeah.
When I was there.
Yeah, they did a big remodel. Gosh, 7 years ago. I don't know what, but they did a big remodel and made a lot of good changes.
They didn't do it when I was there.
But right at this moment, we're undergoing a lot of construction, so it's not so cute now from the outside.
A lot of work outside.
The inside's good.
Yeah, it is. It's nice. Yeah. Okay, so let's get started with just the beginning. I just know you as my physical therapist from 10 years ago or 13 years ago. Hold on real quick. What's that sound?
Airplane.
The airplane? Oh, it's the airplane. Okay, I'm tripping. Okay, never mind, you guys. I'm tripping. I'm hearing stuff. So, yeah, right? So let's get started. So, like I said, I just know you as my physical therapist from back in the days, but I would like to get to know a little bit about you. Where are you from originally?
I'm from San Diego.
Born and raised?
Mm-hmm. Born and raised.
What part of San Diego?
So I started off in Mira Mesa.
Okay.
And lived there until I was like second grade or something, then moved down to Chula Vista. Graduated from high school at Chula Vista High School, and then moved away to go to my undergrad school, college.
Okay.
And then went to PT school in LA.
Oh, okay. So you were...
Very short stint in LA.
Right. Okay, you were there for a little bit. You didn't like it?
Right back to San Diego.
Yeah. Hey, San Diego's beautiful. You can't complain living here. Well, so you grew up in Mira Mesa, moved to Chula Vista. What was your childhood like? You know, whatever you're comfortable sharing. How'd you grow up? You know, I feel our past shows why we are where we're at. You know. So
sure.
what was it like for you growing up in Mira Mesa and just in San Diego in general?
Yeah, I was. My family was not well off, but we were fine. We had a roof over our heads, very stable, 4-person family. I have a brother, and my 2 parents are still around. I have a very small family. So my mom had 1 sibling, and my dad had 1 who had passed already. So he was basically an only child. So we don't have a lot of,
family,
big family. But I would say that the part of my life that drew me a little bit into this, or the first inklings of this, was when I was in this is a complete guess.
Yeah.
Maybe 4th grade, and my friend that I was closest to at school was in a wheelchair. I think she had muscular dystrophy, but I had no idea what that was at the time.
This is 4th grade?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And she had a power wheelchair, and we would race around the school, and I would jump on the back of her power wheelchair, and we would fly around the school. And so I had a little bit of an understanding of that at the time. And then I got in trouble I was not a kid that got in trouble when I was a kid, but I did get in trouble
right.
one time when my
times.
teacher asked me to clean her desk for her, and she had a special desk that worked for her because she had hand limitations and deformities. And he asked me to clean her desk during recess, and I said, I don't understand why Carmen can't clean her own desk.
Yeah.
And then I got to stay in at recess for that because I didn't have a sensitivity, I guess, because I was like, she was so normalized to me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I was
she
like,
had a disability.
Why do I have to help her?
So she had a
She can do it
disability
herself.
with her hands? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay, so
that was my first sign that maybe there was some
interest in it?
interest in people with disabilities. If I look back, but I didn't register it at the time.
Right. So what was it? Okay, so you're in 4th grade. What year is this? And the reason I'm asking, because I'm not trying to, I don't like to ask women how old they are, right? But the reason I'm asking is because the way disabilities are viewed. And, I remember when I was in school, I remember just high school, they had that section where those special kids that are in wheelchairs, it was, how do I say it? I remember this girl came into our classroom, right? It tripped me out. And she was in a wheelchair. She couldn't move her neck. She was like in an electrical wheelchair. I don't know why she came into our classroom. I can't remember why. I was like in 11th grade or 10th. But she made a joke about her wearing a diaper. And her and the teacher were the only ones that laughed. And all of us being juniors, 11th grade, we didn't laugh. We were like, oh, hell no. Like, did she say diaper? Right? So the mentality at 17, 16 of wearing a diaper is crazy. What was the mentality back then when it came to people with disabilities?
Yeah, so she was in a mainstream classroom.
What does that mean?
That means that she was in a regular classroom. Like she wasn't in a special ed classroom,
okay.
I don't think she had an aide or anything with her. But it was 1979, so it was
79. Okay,
a long time ago.
Yeah, it's a while. It's not that long.
So she was mainstream. She could do her work, but she had just hand deformities and would write with her pencil different. That's basically all I remember.
And what made you want to be so? Were other students treating her like you were treating her?
I think so, but I was her closest friend at school. Yeah.
And what drove you just to being so friendly with her, I guess?
I have no idea.
To this day.
No, she wasn't any different than any other kid to me. Like, it was just not.
It was whatever.
It was whatever.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. Like I said, that's when that chick came in and said that about the diaper. I was like blown away, and I had never. You see people in wheelchairs, right? But the difference between this girl and the other ones is that she was actually aware. There's the ones that are like, unfortunately, they're drooling and stuff like that. But she was like I said, she said she was wearing a diaper, and we all took it like, what the hell? Like, no way. Like, this is not like diaper. Like, she's our age. Like, how is she wearing a diaper? It was so. I was lost when she said that. I didn't even know how to take. I didn't see it like how you said it. I just saw it as normal. Right? I didn't see that. Okay, so.
Of course, I was in 4th grade and you were in 11th grade, so it's a little different.
A little different?
Yeah.
You think it
and I think the first time that it really hit me that she had a disability was when we were on a bus for some field trip or something, and they were dropping her off at her house. I don't know why they did that, but regardless, she got out, and then I was like, I wonder what her house looks like, and then how she does all those things at the house.
Yeah.
We weren't close to socialize outside of school, but that was the first time that I remember thinking like, I maybe not know everything about her.
Yeah.
So it was probably that incident with the teacher getting me in trouble for not cleaning her desk that kind of pointed out her disability to me, actually.
Trip out. How far it goes. That's a trip. Yeah. 4th grade. That's crazy. Okay, so in high school, what were you involved in? Were you in sports? Were you... I was doing the gang stuff. That's what I was into, you guys. That's how I got shot. I got shot when I was 19, and this is what happens, What were you doing in high school? What were you into in those times?
So my first career was my athletics. So I was a swimmer. So from age 9 until I graduated from college.
So like water polo or just swimming?
Swimming and water polo. So I did play water polo in high school, but it was mostly because I was fast. So they would stick me in just to swim to get the ball and throw around a little bit. I mean, it was, they didn't have girls water polo, so I was on a guys team, and
What?
they just threw me in there. Yeah. And
No
then,
way.
so I played water polo in high school just to get a second letter, and all my friends were on the water polo team. So, did that, but swim was my first career. It was a lot. Yeah. So I would train 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening. If I was in high school season, I would go to their practice and coach them for an hour and a half in addition to that. So my life was revolved completely around
On
swimming.
sports. Basically,
So,
sports.
Yeah, and that ended up taking me into college because I wasn't really a good student.
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't a terrible student,
Yeah.
but I
you
did
weren't-
what I needed to do to get by. And then the reason that I got into college was because of my swimming.
Man. Okay, so this is
Yeah.
when you were in Chula Vista?
Yeah,
Yeah, so like Chula Vista High School or?
yeah,
Nice.
Spartans,
Spartans? Okay. Yeah.
class
Well,
of '88.
Class of 88. Shout out to Chula Vista. Man, that's crazy. So water polo, that's swimming is hard. 2 hours? No, you basically did 4 hours. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, and that was during the week, and then on the weekends you'd have 2-day swim meets, and so yeah, it was a lot.
So was
it was
this
hard to balance any kind of social life with that. I mean, I
Yeah.
had a lot of friends, but there were, I didn't get to
Do the
do a
fun
lot.
stuff.
I mean, I went to football games, but that was about it. I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
have any opportunity to get in trouble.
Yeah. That's good. That's really good.
Well,
There's
there's
nothing-
always an opportunity to get in trouble,
There
but
is.
not in my high school years. I would say I was pretty, grounded in my swimming, and
So what does it take to be involved in just swimming? Like what was the discipline that you had to have to keep doing it and for it to take you to college in a way? Like in high school, I was not disciplined. I had no discipline whatsoever besides manners. My parents taught me manners. Watch how you talk to people. That was my discipline in a way. But that I was gonna wake up early, eat right, and all that stuff, I wasn't doing that. What does it take to be so focused and just be that good? If you were a fast swimmer, that means you were good at it for a reason. What does it take to do that?
I'm not sure, but I was not the most diligent trainer. So I was a fighter. So
What do you mean?
stubbornness.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yep. So I didn't want to
okay.
lose.
Huh.
Didn't want to lose, and I would train to the meet. And so if I had a meet coming up, I would train harder. And then in the less busy season, it was a year-round sport. This drove my coach crazy, is that I would, not go to practice for a period of time. And then I come back around and the meet would come up and I'm like, oh, I'm going to train. And I'm just fierce. I was just fierce in the water. And then that's how I got recruited, was because my coach was like, if you can get this girl to come to practice,
She'll practice.
then you can,
So were you
who
like
knows where she's going to get to.
Yeah. And did
So
your
they-
parents get you involved, or was it something that you wanted to do, swimming?
That's another kind of funny story, because my brother started swimming. And at that time, I was really terrified of the water, and I wouldn't even put my face in the water in the bathtub. Terrified.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
then my brother started, and he was older than me. So he started coming home with ribbons and medals and all this stuff. And I was like, I'm going to be on the swim team in a year. And my mom's like, right.
Wow. Oh, your
And I
mom's like,
was.
yeah, right.
And I was. And then I kept going from
So
there.
you're just competitive. That's just who you are in general, and so it's not even like you gotta eat right. You just gotta want it.
I did not eat right. So
You
yes.
just wanted it.
Just wanted it,
You
yeah.
just wanted to win. Man, that's amazing. Man, I wanted to play football. I remember in high school I wanted to play football. I had bad grades. So I'm guessing you were a C student type of student, right?
I was
you're
a
saying
B student.
B student,
B
okay.
student, I would say Bs. My mom was in education. She was an instructional aide, so I had to perform well enough because she knew. She knew what the outcome, that she knew that I was going to go to college and all that stuff, so I needed to do.
Who was your biggest influence growing up? My influence was my uncles. They were doing what they were doing, gang stuff and all that. They were. I just looked at them and I wanted to be like them. For some reason. Who had that influence? For
That's a
you?
good question. I don't think I've ever thought of that before, but it was just expected that I was going to stay in line and keep going, and so I guess it would be my family, my parents, my brother.
Did they put high expectations? Is that what it
don't-
was, or?
I don't think so. They just supported me. They were at the swim meets all the time and, cheering.
Did you have friends that? Did you ever have friends that didn't have that support? Did you ever see? You know, we were outside talking, and I was, you know, talking to you about my friends, how, you know, their struggles, what they go through because of not being disciplined, not having the support, not having the parents. You know.
So I would say yes. So less support. Yes, I wouldn't say no support, but I would say I had friends that had less support, and they were still trying to do the same thing that I'm doing, you know, but didn't have their family in the stands cheering for them or whatever.
So you graduated 88, you said, right? 88 from Chula Vista. You went to college. Where'd you go to college?
Whatever. Okay, that was my first fumble. So UC Santa Barbara.
UC Santa Barbara. And what was that experience? What
Unbelievable.
In the good way or in the bad way?
In a good way. It was unbelievable. So it was. I was recruited only because my co-swimmer guy that I trained with was being recruited, and they really wanted him. They didn't really care about me, I don't think, at the time. And so he ended up going to a different college, and I went to Santa Barbara. So I was walking on to the swim team. They recruited me, but they weren't offering me any money or anything like that. I was on the team. But then, I had an unfortunate bike accident trying to learn how to pop my bike up a curb.
Oh, okay.
On the day before practice started, and I broke my arm. So then I spent the whole from September into January kicking. Yeah, for the whole swim practices, all of them. And that really got my fire burning too. So,
what do you mean by that?
I was trying to prove myself to this coach that was, and then I was stuck with a kickboard kicking. And so I became the fastest kicker in the whole, I was famous in high school for my solo one beat kick because I was a distance swimmer, and nobody could believe that I could go anywhere with a one beat kick. But then I went into college, broke my arm, and then I was like, I was
but how do you
little motorboat.
So I'm guessing you have a cast, right? How do you get in the water with a cast?
I did not have a cast. I just had a sling, so I could just sit on my board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and kick. And so I got a really powerful kick, and that helped me for the rest of my swim career with coming off the walls and kicking hard. And there's a lot of turns in a mile swim, so.
Yeah, man. Yeah. That's crazy.
So that helped me. And then, so being in Santa Barbara, there's so many distractions. In Santa Barbara.
Okay.
So it was the number one party school, number two party school at the time. I don't know, but regardless, my theory on that is that you can go into that environment and you can fail. You can get distracted. You don't know how to prioritize. You fail. Or you can go in there, experience all that stuff, but still be able to balance it.
Yeah.
And then when you succeed and graduate from that says a lot about you.
It does.
That's my theory.
Man, that's crazy. So this is, so now we're talking about, this is like 1990?
I graduated in 1993. I took the 5-year plan.
Okay.
Because I had so much fun.
So what did you go to college for? So you were swimming, you were involved in the sports, but what were you actually there for? What were you trying to learn?
Yeah, so that's kind of an interesting story too. So when I was in high school and I was planning to go to college, you have to designate a major, or you go in undeclared. But at that time, it was highly encouraged to designate a major. And I had a choice when I was choosing my schools to go to. I was recruited from a lot of schools, and some were offering me money, and Tabitha, being Tabitha, goes to the one, I could have chosen to go to the money one and been at the top of the team, or I could have gone to the no money one, Santa Barbara, and be at the bottom of the team and then work my way up. Well, that's my MO.
Wow.
Go in there, fight.
So you're tough.
Yeah.
I
was. I think I'm still tough.
You are. No, not even was. You still you have it in you. You have to have it regardless. See, I'm impressed, and I'm gonna say why I'm impressed, because when I met you, I'm just looking at a therapist. I'm not looking at somebody that's gonna help me. I'm in my head. I'm going crazy. I'm thinking all this stuff. Obviously, I've been seeing you for the past 13 years because I go visit. I go to sharp rehab all the time and visit patients. So, but just now I look at you different, because I didn't know you were this. You're so nice, but you're tough. The fact that you rather take the hard way. You chose to take I would have taken the money.
Yeah, prove it.
Yeah. I would have taken them. I would have gone and taken the money. I wasn't like that. That's a trip. Okay, so.
Well, I was really lucky that I had a family that allowed me to make that decision. So my parents, I can't believe that my family allowed me to make that decision, because I remember sitting at the dinner table and going, well, I'm being offered this money from this school and this school and this school or whatever, but I really am drawn to this school. And they were like, you do what you're going to do and we'll figure it out. And so, yeah, I was really fortunate that way.
Man,
but yeah, and
that's crazy.
Yeah,
okay.
So I went in. So in high school, I didn't know, I was not a great student.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that I had a learning disability. So that was a thing.
But you had B's. How are you not a good student? If I had a B, my mom would. Actually, she wouldn't say nothing. But but like a B would have been awesome for me. Like that's a good student, isn't that a good student?
Yeah, but it was low B's, so it wasn't what I needed. Nowadays, if you try to go to UC Santa Barbara with a 4.2 or a 4.4, you may not get in. At the time, I was lucky and I got in with lower grades, much lower grades than that.
But isn't 4.0 like the highest?
Yeah, except you take honors classes and get it higher. It's magic. So in high school, I was like, well, I can go to these schools that are offering me money and have physical therapy degree, because I thought maybe physical therapy, because I was an athlete and that's what I was good at. And so I thought, what are my strengths in high school? And I was good at sports. Wasn't a great student. So let me look at all the sports careers. And so I looked at sports careers, and physical therapy was in there.
Okay.
There was other things, sports medicine. I didn't even know the difference between sports medicine and physical therapy, but I was like, one of those two. I don't know, whatever. And then I could go to school with that degree, but no, Tabitha takes the hard way. So I went to UC Santa Barbara because it was speaking to me. Follow my heart.
Okay.
Go to UC Santa Barbara, follow my swimming dream, because I knew that lots of people, like something crazy, like 90-something% of the students at that time changed their major. And I was like, I don't even know what this sports medicine, physical therapy thing is really about. Why would I choose based on that? Right. So I'm going to instead choose my sport. And so I went with my sport heart. And then in undergrad, I decided I was going to do a degree in psychology, because that was the only class that I really thought I liked in high school. Okay. And so I chose psychology as a Bachelor of Arts. And then after my first year, I didn't like it. But I did some research. I was too like Freud and all these theorists and all that stuff. I wasn't interested. I wanted the nitty gritty of the brain and psychology rather than the theories.
You think it was sugar coated in a way?
I think it's just different paths. I mean, some people, to be a psychologist and speak to people and counsel people, I mean, that sounds awesome. But in order to get there, you have to learn about the theorists. And yeah. So I ended up choosing, they had two paths under the psychology degree, and one was a Bachelor of Science and one was a Bachelor of Arts. And so I chose the Bachelor of Science route after the first year. That added that extra year on for me, because I had to take all the chemistry, biology, all that stuff. Okay. But I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in psychology, and that was the pre-med degree for UC Santa Barbara. And so then I could use that to help me get into PT school.
Man, so you still had to do a lot of work before you got to physical therapy school.
Yeah, I could have gone the easy route, and done physical therapy as a bachelor and graduated with a bachelor's degree in physical therapy at the time that was available. But the way I chose it and the way that my path road was that I was going to get a bachelor's in something else and then get a master's in physical therapy. And now there's not a master's anymore. Now it's a doctorate. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so it's a lot of more work, I guess.
It's the same. It's a little bit similar, maybe a couple months longer program now, but it's still the same path where you go and you get a bachelor's degree and then you move on to a doctorate.
So how long did it take you to get your master's for physical therapy?
Tabitha takes the scenic route. So I do the 5 years at Santa Barbara. Then because I didn't take all the requirements for physical therapy, I had to go and take some city college classes. Then I got a chance to work in physical therapy to get my eyes on it, my pulse of the profession, make sure this is right for me before jumping into the master's program. So the master's program was 2 years and 3 months. Okay. In addition to the 5 years, but then I had a 2-year hiatus because I needed a year to take the classes, and then I didn't get accepted the first time.
Oh, okay. So you had to do that all over.
Had to
again.
fight.
Yeah, you had.
Bring it on.
She didn't quit. She's like, I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna do it again. I ain't quitting. Man, that's crazy. So, how long did it take you in total to complete that?
Are you talking about years, annually years, or years of school?
Nah, let's say from college, from once you get to college and everything basically that you went through to get to physical therapy and complete it.
So I got my physical therapy degree in 1996.
1996. How did that feel after all that work?
Super.
Yeah.
Super. Yeah,
Okay.
that was my end game. That was all I needed for school. And I mean, I became a good student in grad school. I was not a good student in college either. So
Okay.
I became a good student in grad school and met my goal, and the rest is history.
So you did you did an internship in a way too, or did they put you in there working and getting paid already before your master's?
Yeah, so part of any physical therapy training program or school is clinical training. So you
Okay.
go in, you're not getting paid, you're just learning. Yeah. So
Okay.
physical therapists supervise physical therapy students.
Okay.
I don't even know what the requirement is now, but it's something like at the time I did 2 12-week experiences and a 6-week experience. So that would be 30 weeks of clinical training
Okay.
as a student, and then you graduate. And then after that, you start getting paid after you get your license.
So you were doing your internship. You had to do all those hours. You said how many hours you said you had to do?
I think it ended up being 30 hours over the course of the 3 years of training. Yeah.
Okay. And was physical
Did I
therapy
say hours? 30 weeks.
weeks? I'm sorry. Yeah, I said hours. My bad. 30 weeks. Yeah, 30 weeks. Okay, so was it what you expected? Like, what was it like once you went in there and you're like, okay, this is what I'm gonna be doing. You're there 30 weeks. Did you get discouraged at any moment? I'm guessing you didn't because you're tough, apparently. But what were you thinking as you're doing those 30 weeks? I'm like, did I make the right decision? Is this for me? Or what were your thoughts about it while you were doing it?
Yeah, so I was really lucky that I had a lot of experience before I went to PT school, so I knew I was in the right thing. It's just the setting. So during the physical therapy program, you have to be trained as a generalist, which means that you can graduate and treat in any realm of physical therapy pretty much. And so you're trained as a generalist, so you have to spend some time in the clinic in settings that you might not like. When I was a swimmer and I thought I was going to do physical therapy, I thought I was going to do athletic physical therapy. After spending time in the athletic training office and seeing what athletes are like, yeah, don't want to work with athletes.
Why
so
not?
I knew that.
Well, tell me why though. Tell me why.
Well, because they want to get good enough to compete this weekend. They don't care about the long term effect, and so they're gonna do their exercises for a minute, and then the minute they are ready to perform, they're gonna stop, doing all that. And I was guilty of that. I mean, I was one of those injured athletes that was doing that, and so then when I went into working in physical therapy, I didn't want to do athletics. And so I worked for 5 years before I got into PT school in a skilled nursing facility with people that were old, really old, and really debilitated. And some of them had strokes and brain injuries and all the neuro stuff. Then I was like, oh, this is my jam. And so then when I got into physical therapy school, I already had a work commitment to work for that company because I'd worked for them for so long, and they wanted to help me pay for school with a work commitment contract kind of thing after I graduated. So when I graduated from PT school, I knew I wanted to be a physical therapist in neuro.
Okay.
So I spent 6 weeks in an outpatient clinic during my schooling because I had to. Not my jam.
Yeah.
But spent the last 12 weeks of my physical therapy school at Sharp Memorial in the rehab center.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and so when I graduated, I had that work contract with the skilled nursing facility. But there was something that went on in insurance that's really complicated. Long story short, they stopped my work contract. So they had already paid for part of my school.
Okay.
I didn't have to work for them.
Yeah.
But at that time I was unemployed because I hadn't really marketed myself because I already had a job commitment. So then I was unemployed, and I sent my resume out everywhere that I had been, everyone I knew, and I got 2 interviews, and one of them was with Sharp, and that's the only job offer I got. And so
wow. And you've been there ever since.
I've been there ever since. They made a good investment. And so the only thing was that I couldn't be in the rehab center, which is where I was comfy.
Okay.
I had to go to work in the hospital, so in the acute care setting. And
Okay.
I spent 3 years there. But the first day that I ever stepped foot in a hospital was my first day of employment there. So
Wow.
I had a lot to learn in those 3 years.
Yeah. And obviously you did. If they put you, so you, whatever you had to learn after that, those 3 years, they thought you were fit to be in physical therapy?
Yeah, so when you graduate, you take your licensing board exam.
Okay.
And then you have a license.
And is that test hard?
Yes, it's
Yep.
harder now than it was then, but it was hard.
Okay,
yeah.
what was the difference today? So back then, explain that. So what would,
I don't know because I don't think I'll
obviously
ever
you don't have
take
to
it.
do it again, yeah. But like I'm guessing new physical therapists that are coming. I know there's a bunch new ones at Sharp. I see a lot of new faces, people I never met before. So what was it like for you when you were doing it?
Yeah, so with mine, it was a master's and now it's a doctorate. So I'm guessing that they up the difficulty because it's a doctorate now. They want to make sure that you're qualified and you're in school longer. So there must be something more challenging about
tough.
it. But
Yeah.
it wasn't easy by any stretch when I took it. But by that time, I mentioned earlier that I had a learning disability that I didn't know about. Well, I got diagnosed with a learning disability right before I started PT school.
Okay.
And then they taught me like how to study based on where my problems were. And then PT school was easy because I knew how to study.
Huh. But
kind of
okay, so if you're a B, C plus student, whatever, B minus, whatever, how do you have a learning disability if you have decent grade? Obviously they're not the best then, but they're decent. They're average, I guess. Whatever. Like, what kind of learning disability did you have?
So there's no label on it. So it's not like I have dyslexia or anything like that. But what they do when they're testing you for learning disability is they test you across a broad range of stuff. Mm-hmm. And if you're super high in one area and super low in an area, they take the difference between that, calculate it. And if it's significant enough between your strengths and your weaknesses, they consider it a learning disability. And then they take that area that you're weak at. And that's the deficit. So my deficit was auditory processing. So it's like interpreting what I'm hearing. And so when I was in college or high school, in school, and taking notes, I remember writing down like, the part of the brain that does this is ... Because they'd continue talking, and I wouldn't catch the end of the sentence. I'd get the beginning, but not the end. Yeah. I remember that so vividly, and having a lot of ... in my note and just notes, and having to work harder on the book knowledge because that would fill in the gaps. But once I learned what my deficit was and they gave me strategies to overcome it, then studying was easy because I'd already been trying to do it without those tools. And then I learned the tools and it made it easier.
See, a lot of times I think that stuff is BS, I'm going to be honest. I worked in schools for 10 years, man, and there's a lot of stuff that goes there that I think is just business. That's how I'm going to put it. It is what it is. I'm not going to speak too much on it, but I think it is. I'm sorry, because like that's how I see it. If you have good grades, how does that work? I don't understand it, but it helped you. And at the end of the day, it helped you. It stopped you doing the ... part. So it did help you, but sometimes that's just how I see it.
Yeah, and if you have good grades, then you might not be recommended to be tested. But the way I was struggling in college with knowing everything before the test, going into the test and having such a massive panic attack during the test and then failing.
But isn't that normal?
Then it started kind of, something was wrong. And my mom was in education, as I mentioned earlier. And so, and my brother had dyslexia, severe dyslexia. And so she helped me.
Yeah.
Helped me recognize.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Me, I always had a hard time studying to this day. I can't read a book and just like get by the 10th page and be like so into it. By the time I'm in the 5th page, I'm lost. I'm not even paying attention to. I'm just reading, right? So I don't know if I had it, and maybe I did. I don't know. I didn't do really good in school. It wasn't, to me, in my opinion, school wasn't so important where I grew up. Right. How I grew up is either you're gonna go to school or you're gonna work. And I had like one aunt that went to college and university and all that, but But that was our options. Either you're gonna go to school and work, and if you don't like school, then you better start working.
But yeah, the street smarts, right?
Yeah. But see, the street smarts only sometimes works in the streets.
Right. That's true.
It is not really something. You gotta be a whole nother level of street smart to mix it with the real world and just working and stuff like that. So that's what I grew up in. So yeah, if me growing up in a gang neighborhood, I had to know where to walk through, what time I could go through here, what time I shouldn't go through here. Yeah, that was my options. But yeah, school wasn't important. It wasn't. It sounds messed up, but it wasn't like necessary. You just had to have a job. And me, I'm the type of learner that I have to do it with you. You have to show me, and I'm gonna do it with you. That's how I'll learn it. But if you give me the instructions, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. My wife, when I was in high school, my wife passed my computer class because I couldn't read. They give you a book, instructions. This is what you do to create whatever you have to create. And to save my life, I couldn't. So my wife would do it for me because I couldn't. I have to do it with you. Me, when I was working with the kids, that's how I learned. I was facilitating with the facilitators, and I'm watching them, paying attention what they're doing, what they're not doing, and that's commonly how I would learn. So that's interesting because
that probably factored into your rehab too, and how you learned is adapting to your learning style.
From what I heard, I left really early. I was there like a month and a week or two. I got shot May 26th. I left July 1st or 2nd. So that's barely a month. That's barely a month. And I remember, and I was here thinking, they're just trying to kick me out. But it's a yes and a no. They're trying to get you out of there, get you to home. I know how it goes. It's a process, but like, I remember being in one of the nurses. Her name's Maria. I don't know if she's still there. But I would tell her, like, man, why are they trying to kick me out? Like, nah, man, you're catching up. Like, you're doing better than most patients. And it also matters the type of injury that you have. Right? Mm-hmm. And that's going to go to my actual first question. What does a physical therapy session look like in the beginning? Right? So I'm going to give you an example. I remember when I met you, the first time I met you, I'm laying down, I'm depressed, I'm just looking at the roof, and you come in smiling, and the first thing I recognized that you were tall. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing I recognized. I'm like, damn, she's tall. Right? And you come in, they're like, oh, how you doing, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm good, whatever. And what did you ask me? You asked me, can you feel anything? And I'm like, no, I don't feel nothing. And she's like, well, let's see. And you took out a pen and you tickled my feet. And now when I think about it, you broke the ice very well. Because you didn't come in like, oh, here, I'm your physical therapist, blah, blah. Like, oh, hey, you didn't even say you were my physical therapist. You just came in and said, hey, how you doing? And you asked me if I felt anything. You tickled my feet. And I giggled a little bit, but I didn't feel nothing. I'm like, what is she doing? Like, what is she doing? And I didn't feel nothing. Like, okay, well, let's get you on your chair and let's go to the physical therapy room. And I think one of the first things we worked on was balance. I think that's what it was, right? So that's what happened to me. I'm a level T6. So what does a regular physical therapy session look like in the beginning for you? So does it matter based on their injury, or how does that look?
100%.
100%.
So it depends on the injury. So I work with all kinds of people, like right. They could come up in with a heart transplant or something like that. It depends on what so when we first meet you mm-hmm. in the room or whatever, hopefully I did introduce myself.
It's 13 years ago, you guys. I just described what I remember of you, because you just, it was so just, you made it look normal. It didn't feel weird. You broke the ice very well. So it was just, that was the impact that when I think about it today, that was the impact that I'm like, man, she just like nothing. Like if it was not like if I'm not paralyzed. And it's not like you're making a joke out of it. You're just trying to break the ice. So yeah.
So it's really important when I first meet somebody. We have to get rapport and trust really quickly, because really quickly, I'm going to have to be, really close to you mm-hmm. and physically close to you and helping you move and stuff. And if you don't trust me, we're not going to get anywhere. And so it's super important. Like, you have to make people feel comfortable. Yeah, and they're traumatized from whatever they've been through, maybe. And you have to kind of lighten the mood a little bit, be friendly, be courteous, though. I mean, some people don't, they have their walls up. And so you have to kind of take it slower with them. But when you first meet somebody, the most important thing is to establish trust. And then to listen, to actively listen to everybody and put yourself in their shoes. Like you and I, our histories are not the same, right? Mm-hmm. So, but I can appreciate where you came from. I appreciate your path, and it got you to where you're at. Mm-hmm. And who knew then where your path would take you? And you are like, this is like my favorite part of my job is like, and people tell me all the time, they hear what I do and they're like, how can you do that day in and day out? Yes. And not be just sad. Yeah. And I'm just like, well, because I see people like you who had a rough time, had a catastrophic injury. And then I talk to you now and I say, what have you done with your life? And you can come back and go, oh my gosh, I'm doing this and this and this. I'm married. I have kids. I'm doing a podcast and, I'm giving back to the community and I'm making the world a better place just by trying. And not everybody has that outcome, but I'm telling you that the ones that do feed me. Man. It's like plugging me into a wall and charging my battery. Like, it feeds us. Yeah, it's... Man, if you told me 13 years ago... no, you guys did tell me 13 years ago, it's going to be all right. You got this. And I didn't believe none of you. I thought you guys were all full of, you know what, like for real. And when I look at myself, it's a trip. It's a trip. And man, you get me all emotional. Take a breath.
I know.
It's all right.
Nah, because it makes me like, I want to thank you for that. When you think about it, now that I'm able to stop to think about it, like the difference that it makes. Now you said, if it's some therapist that just comes in, I'm just doing, you're not just doing a job. You enjoy your job. And that makes a big difference in building that trust with that person. And I did trust you. You were helping me stand up. You were helping me, teaching me how to transfer, like basic little things. And I did have to trust you to a point. Now that you say that, when you think about it, I did, because now we're able to talk. And it's not like, oh, she's just a therapist. She's just here to do her job. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel like that. So thank you for that, Tabitha. That's crazy. What has been like a most, how do you say it? What was your most like difficult therapy session with a patient? Like what was their condition and what made it tough on you to help them? Was it them being hard-headed? Was it, were they not cooperating? Like what was a patient that you remember that gave you that challenge, I guess?
There's so many stories. I mean, it's just crazy. Everybody has their little things, everybody has their own approach that works best for them. And so the ones that are the most challenging for me is the ones that are like not appreciative or resistant to the process, or remind me of somebody from my past or something like that. And then they get all the emotional stuff that I have from the past that comes in plays. So those are the ones that are the most challenging. Like when I can see the potential and they can't see it, and it's not necessarily, if they're like going through emotional stuff and grief and loss of all that, then I understand that. But when they're just like jerks, disrespectful to everyone that's helping them, that's harder.
And that's when they call me to go. That's when they call me to go, because that's when they're like, hey man, we got this patient that he's not working with us, and I go and I chop it up with them, and everybody's like, thank you, Anthony. Like, oh my God, like this guy was tough. Yeah, I just went, like a month ago? Yeah, there was a guy there for 4 years that just was not cooperating. And I'm like, damn, 4 years? Like, I was cooperating the same week I was there. Like, I was, but man, so I'm guessing you've been cussed out, thrown stuff at. Give me one that stands out besides being thrown at and cussed out. Like, is there one that you remember, like, wow, this guy really did that? Or she, whoever.
Yeah, so I've had some doozies of stories, but one of the ones, it didn't really hit me hard, but it was somebody who didn't have an injury similar to yours. It was more of a
Head
brain injury
okay.
or whatever. But I remember going in. They had those beds. The
ones with the zipper where they cover them?
Yeah.
My roommate had one. I remember my roommate escaped. He got out and they went to go get him. And it was, that was crazy. And it was a head injury because he was wearing a big helmet. I remember that. And he was, I didn't want him as a roommate. And when he left, I was so happy. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. But
that's so funny.
Yeah.
So this person had one of those beds, and I was warned that he could be aggressive.
Okay.
And so I went in there and I was trying to do a first time, get some rapport, get some trust, all that stuff. It came very vivid, like within a couple minutes that we weren't moving from that bed. Like he was just going to stay in there. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to set my first goal as being able to unzip the bed without being terrified.
Yeah.
I remember that one.
And then what happened?
But it was, as a brain injury. And so with the brain injury, people recover from some of that. And so it turned very quickly, it turned over to the part where he could participate in therapy. And I wasn't,
Yeah. And
fearing for my life.
Is it because of the brain injury? Is it because now I don't even like to make it sound like that. Is it because they're slower now? Or what is it about that makes them a little more difficult, I guess?
The most severe brain injuries, well, not the most severe, the second most severe. The most severe is comatose, right?
Comatose,
so
okay.
Second most severe is when they have no realization of where they're at, what they're doing, why they're here, and they're just mad, angry, and they're fighting. It's like they're being held hostage in a foreign country or something under a terrible situation. They're trying to get out.
Yeah.
And so, that's...
I remember when I saw that bed for the first... I have never been to the hospital. I would go to the doctors when I would get beat up really bad. My mom would take me to the doctors because she would be like, dude, look at you. And I'm like, well, it's going to go down. The swelling, like, relax. Like, no, we're going to the doctors. Whatever, right? But I remember when I saw that bed, I was like, this is messed up. Like, you guys are putting this guy inside, like... But once I saw how he was acting, I was like, that makes sense. I don't want this fool getting out and punching me or something like that. I ended up incarcerated 6 months after I got out of rehab. I ended up in jail in December 30th, 2009. No, 2010? 2010, yeah. And when I was there, I was in a medical tank. So in the medical tank, you could have from a broken pinky to cancer to paralysis, stroke, all that. I met two guys that stood out to me. One of them was a black guy, right? He was tall, skinny black guy. And he was a quad. But he would sleep upstairs. There's the bottom floor and the second floor. And I'm like, I thought he was full of crap. I'm like, how are you a quad, bro? And you could walk and you could climb the stairs and all that. He's like, I just don't feel my steps.
Oh, uh-huh.
I'm like, how? No, I'm like, bro, you're messing with me. Like, what do you mean you can't? Like, I can't feel my steps. I can't feel my body, but I can move it. I learned my balance. Now I know, even though I don't feel my step, I know when I'm stepping. And I'm like, this is crazy, bro. When he started climbing upstairs, I couldn't believe it. The other guy, he was a gang member from San Isidro. And I don't know if he got shot in the head or he got hit with a gun in the head. And he ended up paralyzed. Like, it looked like he had a stroke because he would walk like this. For some weird reason, people that get hit in the head are violent because this guy was violent, dude. He would
Not everybody, but...
No, yeah, well, I don't know. But this guy would go up to homies meaning like other Mexicans, and he would just start punching them. And like in jail, you can't do that because it didn't matter his disability. He still got beat up. But it was like in my head, I'm like, how are you in jail, bro? You have me, I get it. I'm still aware of what's going on. I'm like, but how are you in jail, bro? But he was violent. And I don't know and today when I think about it, I think he was just mad of his situation. I think he was mad because he couldn't, when you talk to him, he would look at you and it looked like he wanted to hit you or he was thinking. I felt very bad I felt bad when we had to beat him up because that's just jail stuff. I didn't like it either. It's just stuff that happens in there, but because he was punching people, there has to be a level of like, you can't just let him just go punch at random people because then you'll create a big fight. You know, somebody's gonna try to defend them, somebody's not, whatever. But so those are the difficult ones, right? Like the headshots or whatever.
But there's other, people that just. So sometimes people with similar injuries to yourself that just like people taking care of them. They're in the wrong place because that's not what they're in rehab for.
I don't know. I remember Maria told me, like, you're going to miss this button. You know, you have that button to call the nurse. She's like, you're going to miss this button. I'm like, I'm trying to get out of here. She's like, Anthony, I'm just going to tell you, you're going to miss this button. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, at home is not the same. At home. So, okay, so what do you mean by them? Like they're... Explain that. Explain what you were saying.
Sometimes, like, the younger people that are in rehab, sometimes their parents will come in and they'll be babying them and taking care of them, and that's what the person wants. Yeah. They don't have any goals. Like, that's hard. When they don't have any goals towards independence.
Yeah.
And they just want to be taken care of. I don't relate. Man, it's hard for me to put myself in that person's shoes.
Absolutely.
Because I don't relate. But that's not the place for them to be in rehab, if that's the case. So.
My mom felt bad. She, my mom was just angry. My mom was everywhere. My mom, I remember she busted a scene in the hospital with my ex-girl. She just started talking smack to her. I can't remember why. But, and I love my mom. I'm not saying this to disrespect her or nothing, but I remember my mom was saying, like, man, you're not going to be able to have kids. And I remember telling, like, shut the F up. I'm like, stop. My mom was like, the way she was feeling sorry for me, I didn't like it. Because my mom wasn't like that ever. My mom is tough, mean. She don't give a, like she was tough on us our whole lives. And she grew up tough. She grew up way tougher than us. My mom started working when she was like 5. My mom was born in a farm somewhere. Like, she wasn't born in no hospital, none of that. She grew up tough. So that's one thing my mom did do. She just didn't know how to deal with it. And my dad was trying to be that parent, like, help me with everything and do everything for me. But they had a really tough time. That's a trip, how you put it that way, like when their parents want to just do everything for them, how it affects them.
And sometimes the parent is grieving that way. Like, that's how they're handling their emotions, is to do everything for that person. And then if that person is enjoying it too much, then that's not going to necessarily work in their favor towards a productive life. But
wow, I never even thought.
Maybe that's their choice.
And now that I think about it, I had 5 students from juvenile that I had in juvenile hall that I ran into again at Sharp Rehab. They were there because gangbanging, got shot. Same story. That's when you guys call me again, and I come talk to them. I end up knowing them, like, oh, we have this patient. Oh yeah, oh, what's up, dog? Like, man, I didn't even know you were here. Like, and one of them, that's what's going on. I'm not gonna say their names, but I have one that is going through that same thing that you're saying. His mom does everything for him, and I've spoken to him about him. Like, he's a little ungrateful because he takes advantage of it. Hey, mom, go get me this. I went to his house last time. I'm like, bro, get on your freaking chair. Go get it. And I'm like, what bothers me also that his level is way lower. So I'm paralyzed from my stomach down, so my balance is off, right? I learned how to work in my balance in jail. I did therapy in jail. I was locked up with a guy that was paralyzed from my level and started walking. So when I was there with him, he's like, hey, man, do this, do that. I was in a dorm, so there's bunks. And the bunks are this close to each other. So you can smell the other guys. Freaking nasty. But it's the top bunk, middle bunk, and lower bunk. So he would put me in between. I would lift, like I'm doing the dip, but I'm working on my balance, so I'm shaking. When your balance is off, you're like trying to like make sure, and then you start spasming. So I would do that. He would grab my legs and he like do dips. He's like, and as you do a dip, I'm lifting up your legs. So when you lift up, I'm lifting your legs. I'm gonna put them down. You dip up, whatever. I'm confusing how I'm saying it, but they were showing me therapy. But that's a trip how you say that, because that kid is really doing that. That's what he's doing. He depends so much on his mom, and he doesn't have his dad. So I get it. That's his mom, whatever. And the worst part, his mom's old. His mom like almost in her 60s.
Ooh, that's so sad. Yeah.
And she's most of the time sleeping, tired. The times that I've gone, she's laying down, tired, because, man, like, and it's her only son. Yeah, so like I was saying, you know, he's heavily stuck on drugs. As a matter of fact, he made his condition even worse because he was taking Oxycontins and other street drugs to the point where now he needs a bag. What's it called? What is that?
A colostomy.
Colostomy bag. I want to call it the S bag, but a colostomy bag. Yeah. And because from, you know, he was drinking this drug, or I don't know if it's a drug, but it's called lean. Lean is like this syrup drink that you drink, and when you drink it, it makes your poop into like really hard. It makes it just really hard, and so it was rotting him from inside.
Ugh, that's awful.
Yeah, and me when I got out of the rehab, I was on drugs. First of all, I was on the drugs that I was prescribed. So I was on oxys, I was on morphine patches because I was in really big pain. My thing, I was a very heavy marijuana smoker. So when I got out, that was the first thing I wanted to do. I wasn't thinking about bettering myself. I wasn't thinking about rehab. I didn't care about that stuff. Like, my gang was still my concern, but I just wanted to go get high. So one thing I would do, I would take 3 oxys, the 80 milligrams, and that's 3, smoke, because my lungs both collapse. So if for me not to feel pain, I would do that. That's what I would do, and I was just stuck on that. From that, I went to smoking crystal meth. I had smoked it before, but I never liked it. But because where I was at in my head, I didn't care. And the messed up thing about it, that my stupidity, I would do it because I would feel my legs.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Because crystal meth gives you a rush. It's an upper. You know, it doesn't drop you. It's not like oxys or heroin. Like, so me thinking I'm a genius, like, oh, this is helping me. Like, I feel my legs. I can feel them, blah, blah, blah. But it's a lot of the people that I meet that end up leaving, that's what they do. They go to drugs.
Oof.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever met patients that struggle with that there, but most of the people that I've met, that's what they do. They go and they want to get high to just forget, you know. They don't think about how we could better ourselves. I don't know if you've had patients that I don't know how long it takes. And that was actually one thing I was going to ask you. What is something, let's say back in the days when I was there with you, what is something I should have asked you in order for me to better myself? What is something you could ask a physical therapist to say, like, hey, what can I do then? Like, let's say I wanted to walk. The chances are low, but let's say I'm focusing on wanting to walk. I'm hard-headed like you. I'm going for the goal. You know, like, what do you say to, like, what questions should a patient be asking you in order for them to improve their situation? Let's say it's somebody like me that's aware, not had traumas and stuff like that. Somebody that's aware, that knows what's going on. What is something they should be asking you?
We want to, well, not everybody's ready to hear the truth about their injury, but if they can understand their injury and then understand what the advances are in medicine that are coming up or upcoming or that will give them the best chance for recovery. I think that's important no matter what the injury is. To be number one, it's handy if you can emotionally be able to understand your own injury. A lot of people are not there, you know, and then we try to educate them on their injury, but they may not be ready to absorb it. And then we always honor whatever goal it is. So if you came to me and you have paralysis and you said my goal is to walk, then I'm going to phrase the things we're working on with the goal of you.
What would you tell me?
Wanting to be able to walk.
Give me an example. What would you have told me if I told you that? I know for sure I never told you that, but let's say I did. What would you have told me?
Yeah, so you would inform everything that we're doing during our session.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm going to do some stretching of your calf, and this is your goal is to be able to walk. And so in order to walk, when and if the nerves recover, then you need to be able to have good range of motion in your ankle or whatever it is. So I would just phrase everything we're doing. We're going to strengthen your arms really good so that if we get to that place where you want to be, where you're getting ready to walk, that you have the arm strength to hold yourself, you know, or whatever. Yeah. And then educating them on what that looks like, you know. And I mean, long time ago when I first started doing this, we had doctors that would actually do like calculation and say you have a 13% chance of walking
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something. Nobody says that stuff anymore because
tell you
we've seen that be 0% for people, and we've seen that be 100% for people. So you just can't guess anymore. You're the best person to ask about potential for walking is the neurologist.
Yeah, I remember they told me and when before I hit the rehab in ICU, like, you're never gonna walk again. The doctor, that guy was he was a little tough guy, but he just said it like that. You're just not gonna walk again. I started cussing him out. I'm like, forget it. You're like, he was so like, kind of how you said, handling the truth. And me, like, if he basically told me the truth, because I'm not walking to this day, right? But one thing I noticed, I'm on a Facebook page that's for spinal cord injuries, right? And there's a lot of beginners there. They're barely there they're not even in their chair 1 year. And when they ask, like, what can I do to be more independent, the first thing I say is strengthen your arms. That's the first thing I say. Strengthen your arms, and if you could strengthen your back muscles. That's one of the first things I said, because when I was in jail and the guy showing me therapy, that's what he was helping me do. Get your upper body strength first. Like, if you want to at least, maybe not walk, but if you want to be independent, this is something that you have to do. So that was one of the first things that's one of the first things I tell people. Get your upper body strength, and little by little, you might have the chance. But I know in the hospitals now they have to tell you that you're not going to walk, right?
I don't think they say that very often, actually. No? I don't honestly think that people hear that very much. There's sometimes people do.
Yeah.
And that's under the circumstance that I'm guessing that there's more trauma in that area. That
have you had patients?
The surgeon is actually positive that's what's going to happen. But I have seen miracles.
Yeah.
I have seen patients who were told that they weren't going to walk, and then I've helped them walk.
Tell me about those. What is it? What do you think it is? Was it based on their injury? Was it based on their commitment to wanting to walk? Like, tell me about the ones that did end up walking. Like, how does that look? What is it? What did they do different? Or did they do anything different compared to the ones that just didn't even think about walking?
Yeah, I wish I could tell you. That would be a money maker. I'd be a bazillionaire. But really, I think it's a combination. So it has to do with the injury, because you can't make a broken electrical cord work.
Right.
You know,
even if you tape
once
it.
you cut the cord, if you cut this cord, it's not going to work until you repair it. Right. So when the injury happens, if there's significant enough damage to the spinal cord, then that cord will not repair itself.
Yeah.
And so, but along with that, if there is some preservation that nobody knows about or sees or whatever, there's people who have had transected cords and then they end up feeling something in their legs. Like, how does that happen? It's a miracle. I mean, seriously, we see people that can do things that are miraculous, and why aren't you worthy of a miracle, right?
Yeah. Well, so. I'm when I was in ICU, they told me if it wouldn't hit your spine, it would have hit your heart. So I think that's the miracle. I'm not going to push the limits.
Yeah.
I'm going to let it be what it is, because that's literally what they told me. Like, look, if it wasn't going to hit your spine, it would have hit your heart, and you would have died. You know what's crazy, Tabitha? The day before I left the rehab, there was a guy that was next door to me, the next room, and he was barely there for a week. Didn't talk to him or nothing. The guy, this is 2010, right? The guy ended up getting a PlayStation, like the first PlayStations they ever had. And well, he's in the room, he's bored, and he's just gonna test it out. This guy was there because he's a mountain climber, and he fell, broke his leg. So he was an amputee. So no spinal cord injury, nothing, just an amputee. Well, maybe he had some other stuff, but for sure he was an amputee. And so, I'm guessing because I was young, he asked me if I knew how to do it. And so I'm like, yeah, I got you. And I helped him out. He said, oh, well, thank you, bro, blah, blah. I'm like, no problem. I don't care, whatever, just a PlayStation to me. So I just left. I didn't even want to play with him. I just helped him. The next day before I leave, this guy comes in, and he looks just like him, but he's walking. They look related. The guy next door had long hair. Well, this guy, they came in, he had short hair. Trip out. He comes in, he's like, hey, man. He's like, thank you for helping my brother. I'm like, who's your brother? But like, they look alike, but I don't know him, so I'm like, who's your brother? Like, oh, the guy next door. Thank you for helping him set up the PlayStation. I'm like, oh, no problem. He's like, you don't recognize me, huh? And I'm like, I don't know who the fuck you are. That's how I said it. I'm sorry, but that's how I said it. I'm like, I don't know who the fuck you are. He's like, I'm the guy that picked you up in the ambulance. I'm like, picked me up in the ambulance? And he's like, yeah, man, the day you got shot, I'm the one that picked you up. and my energy changed. I went from I don't give a damn to what? And he's like, yeah, man. He's like, look, Anthony. He's like, we were 30 seconds away from where you were at when they called us. And if we weren't that far from where you were at, like, you would have died. Now, besides the fact that he told me that, the coincidence, I don't know what, the fact that his brother's next door, and this guy comes in, he's like, man, you're lucky you're alive. He's like, you be grateful, man. He's like, because we were 30 seconds away when the cops called us to come get you. And I couldn't believe it. The fact that his brother's next door and this guy, and I don't recognize him because when they pick me up, I'm dying. I'm bleeding out. I'm not letting the cops touch me. Like, I'm here fighting them. I'm here trying to get them off of me, passing out back and forth. But I couldn't believe that was his brother. And I ran into him like a year later. I'm out there with my friend, the picture that I showed my friend Victor. Me and him are out there gangbanging. I'm in the chair, he's walking, we're just looking for trouble. and he's at the fire station where they're at. It's like, let's say 5 blocks, probably 6-7 blocks away from where I got shot. So we're actually walking by there from that station, and he's walking, and they're doing a workout session. They're just walking around. They're just walking, but warming up or whatever. And they're behind us. And me and my homie are like, these fools are cops, fool. like they're cops, fool. Like kick it, homie. Like we're just in the mob, but like we're thinking they're narcs or like undercover. And he's like, Anthony, and cop. In my head, he looks like a cop too. If it wasn't for the uniform, he looked like a cop. I turn around like, what's up, man? And again, I didn't recognize him. I'm like, who are you? He's like this guy. He's like, remember, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, wow, bro. Like, I don't know why I would run into this guy all the freaking time. I'm like, what's going? I'm like, is this a coincidence? Like, what are you? I'm here thinking, what are you trying to tell me, God? Like, it was crazy. I couldn't believe it. But the fact that he came in, he's like, thank you, man. And he just reminded me, like, you're meant to be here. Like, you're lucky you're here. You're blessed. Like, make something happen out of it. And it was crazy, just the impact that he had. Like, so many things happened in that rehab to me that it was crazy. It was crazy. Like, it's crazy. I'm gonna just leave it at that. Okay, so I'm gonna get to some heavy questions right now. If somebody wanted to become a physical therapist, or somebody's taking that path of becoming a physical therapist, obviously we understand that it takes a little bit longer now, but what is something you would tell that new physical therapist to expect in this type of job? What is something that they need to have in order? Because the fact that you've been there 24 years is mind-blowing. That says something. Besides the fact that it says that you're resilient, it to me it says that you enjoy your job. I was working with the kids for 10 years, and there was times I didn't like it, but most of the times I was happy to be there. I'm not there no more. Long story about that, but if it wasn't for what happened, I would still be there. You know? What advice would you give somebody for them to be able to last as long as you have, and what do they need to have? What do they need to do in order to last this long in this type of job?
That's a good question. So I would start with knowing what you're getting into. So they have to do research. So research by volunteering, shadowing, work in the environment. So before they make it's a huge commitment to decide to become a physical therapist.
Working
it's
with
expensive.
People.
It's time consuming, all that stuff to get your physical therapy license. And so you want to know what you're getting into and know that it's a fit for you, because if it's not a fit, you're wasting your time, you're wasting a lot of money. And so knowing as much as as you can know about physical therapy before you get in is really important. Work experience is the best for you to get a good idea of what the breadth, because there's physical therapists that work in schools, there's physical therapists that work in hospitals, there's physical therapists that work on football teams. Whatever.
So if you wanted to, you could go get a job in any other type of, like, as a physical therapist, you could work for like athletes and stuff like that if you really wanted to, right?
When I first graduated, I had more of an opportunity, but now that I've kind of found my pigeonhole, I'm marketable in that environment.
Okay.
24 years out, I'm not going to be able to go from neuro to a sports team. Like, it's not reasonable. And it does take quite a bit of connections and experience to be able to get on those sport teams too.
What do your kids think about your job? You know, do they think, oh, mommy's just a physical therapist?
That's a good question. My kids are all adults now, believe it or not. They're all adults. I think they know that I love my job.
Mm-hmm.
They know that I do some interesting stuff because they hear the patients' stories all the time about different things. And they also know that I'm protective of them because of my job.
Yeah.
Because I see, I see that, you can protect yourself from some of these injuries, right? So are my kids going to be able to use a motorcycle after they spend some time in the ICU?
I want to give you an example where the consequence might be for riding a motorcycle. Wow.
Skateboarding. Yeah, none of my kids are daredevils. Like the most daredevil-y thing, my son did parachuting. And of course, at that time, I had a couple patients come through that were parachute injuries, and so I did all my research and educated him, and he made his decision as an adult, and then I just
to never do it again.
Prayed.
Yeah.
And was happy when he landed.
Do it one time. That's it. Okay? And it only takes one time too. That's the scary and sad part, that it only takes that one time.
Yeah, and there's skilled people in certain things that still get injured, because things happen,
They do.
You could just be walking across the street, get hit by a car. Like, you better take your precautions and look both ways before you cross the street.
2 years ago, I literally got hit by a car crossing the street in the wheelchair.
Oh.
They flew me freaking 10 feet. It was crazy.
It happens because you're less of a
the view, I guess.
Yeah, you're not as big of a...
Nah, what this guy had, it's not like he had a truck. This guy had a Nissan Altima, bro. But the thing is, it was dark as hell. I'm wearing all black. The other chair that I have is all black.
Oh, well.
The cop, when the cop got there, he's like, why are you in all black, bro? This is why he said, this is why you get hit. He asked me if I was okay, but he's like, why are you wearing all black in the dark? I'm like,
camouflage.
Bro. I'm like, yes. I'm like, why is this guy not looking both ways? It was funny. Now I'm laughing, but I was like, this fool is a trip. He said, why are you wearing all black? He basically said, who does this? Why are you in a wheelchair pushing here in the dark? That's crazy. So, any of your kids, have they taken... are they trying to be physical therapists, or are they taking different routes?
So at the moment, no. So my daughter did some sports medicine classes in high school and was talking about being a physical therapist, but she wanted to be a physical therapist for animals.
Nice.
Which exists as well, but you do have to go to school and work with people.
Yeah.
In order to get to that position where you can work with animals. So she wasn't interested in that. So they've all got their interesting paths, but nobody's following anything that I'm doing at this time.
Yeah.
But things could change because there's not some solid avenues yet. So we'll
absolutely.
see. They're young still.
Okay, and I think this is my last question, if another one doesn't pop up. How has this job impacted the way you view life? And for example, me, again, working with the kids, I speak about it a lot, man, because it was something I enjoyed. I working with them humbled me. I was very ignorant. The way I viewed life, the way I thought life was supposed to be, it wasn't. And working with them, listening to their stories, when I had homies that were able to do whatever they wanted, I thought that were the luckiest people in the world. They could they could go to sleep whenever they want. They could get bad grades. They could care less about it. They could dress how they want. Most of my homies were dressed up in baggy clothes and stuff like that. I had to hide that from my mom. All that, because that appearance brings a certain attraction, which is either from other gang members or the cops. It's not good attention. But that they changed my view on how I saw life and how I saw these kids, that they're not lucky. They are just in a bad situation because either parents are careless, they're stuck on drugs, or their moms, or they live with their grandma, they're too old to even be on their case. It humbled. That's how it changed my view of just life in general. How has this job changed the way you see life?
There is nobody that does what I do that can take things for granted, right? So I get up in the morning, I get out the door in 30 minutes. If I could lose that at any given second, something can happen, and then all of a sudden, whatever happens, things happen, and you just can't take anything for granted, and you just have to enjoy the privileges that we have at any capacity, and live life full, with love and travel, if that's your love language, or whatever it is, relationships, or playing video games. I mean, whatever it is, you just can't take anything for granted. You just got to appreciate what you have.
Yeah.
And your ability to share your passions with people.
And it really is the little things. It really is the little things. The little things that back then, you don't even think about that they're important. It's crazy how we just ignore that and think it's not a big deal. As simple as, I remember when I was leaving the hospital and I was at home, my sister would help me put on my clothes, put on my shoes, and she was 13 at that time. I'm 19. I'm thinking I'm grown and I know everything. And I remember seeing her doing that for me. I'm like, I can't believe I can't do that. I couldn't do that at that time. I couldn't sit up. I was wearing the metal brace. I don't know if you remember. I was wearing that chest brace. You can't do much when you have that on. And something as simple as tying my shoes, I was like, I can't believe I can't. Now I can, obviously, but at that time I couldn't do that. And there's things today that when I see people go to the beach and I see them run into the water, and obviously you can, if you're disabled, you can't do that. There's programs and ways to get in that, but I want to do it by myself. And I can't. If I go into the sand, I'm stuck. I ain't going nowhere. I can't move nowhere. That's it. I'm gonna be in the first step is the last step I'm gonna take if I go into Mission Beach or whatever. But those little things, man, appreciate what you guys have. It's and take it from a physical therapist that has seen crazy injuries. Just like you said, from skydiving, from a lot of people that end up paralyzed are from car accidents. Mm-hmm. I met a lot of them that they weren't even the driver. Right. They were the guy. They were the ones sleeping. Yep. And their friend was drunk as hell, and I met this guy, ended up a quad, and oh my God, I was like, how? I didn't think it was fair. Right. No, there's a lot of terrible things that happen that are not fair, but those same people that happens to, sometimes they go on to make amazing lives out of what happened to them, and they still feel like the 2.0 version is better than the 1.0 version or whatever. So it's still possible. It is. Yeah. It is. I there's this guy, I don't know, I forgot his name. I have him on Facebook, but this guy paints with his mouth. He's a quad, high quad, I think, too. Mm-hmm. He just got married. Bro. He's a quad. I'm like, who? Like, how? I don't. Like, relationship. Yes. Relationship. And it's crazy. Like me today, being married. What the hell? Like, how? I'm like, is she crazy or am I cute? Like, which one is it? Like, and the fact that he's okay and just he's with his mouth big ass paintbrush and just boom, and it's beautiful. Like I can't do that with my hands. I can't. I can't do it. And you just don't quit, man. It's Tabitha. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate you coming. You made my day today. This is, you take me back. You do. I hate getting emotional. I hate it. But you take me back and just thank you again. I'm very grateful for what you do. You're I didn't know you were this tough, man. I just didn't. And when I think about it, I think that's what it takes to be able to help people that are hurt. You know, that's what it takes. And you know, because when, like you said, people ask you, how do you do this job? How do you come in here and see people that none of us are happy to be there? No, Nobody signed up for that. Have you ever had a patient that's like, oh yeah, I'm cool. It's just another day at rehab. Like, have you ever had one? No, right? No, because people leave their house and they're going to go live their lives and go to work, and then bam, slammy, and they end up in rehab. Yeah. They didn't sign up for that either. Yeah, nobody signs up for it. But I want to express my gratitude to you for everything you've given back to our community.
And when we call you up and we have those difficult people and we're like, we need to get you in here and to help us, you do help us. And so you've given back you know, just as much as you've received, if not more.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know, this is how I ended up doing that too. It's all the good things that I've done, I didn't want to do them. The only reason it turned out to be that, me going to Sharp Rehab and visiting patients and even being recognized on a big level, the only reason that was happening was because the juvenile hall is across the street. So my probation officer was next to the juvenile hall, right? The office. And I would go see my probation officer, go check in, get drug tested, all that stuff. I just had to push up the hill and you guys are right there. And I would go visit Marianne. What's up, Marianne? I love you. You're awesome. But I would go visit Marianne, and then they're like, hey, we have a patient here. You want to talk to him? And I'm like, not really. Like, no, like I don't think I'm the one. Like, talk to him. Just talk to him. See what happens. And that's how I started.
Yeah.
And ever since then,
we believe in you.
Yeah, you guys believed in me more than I believed in myself. And that's how it turned out. And then Amanda asked me to write the letter for the Victory of Spirit Award. And she asked me for like 2 years. And I'm like, no. Same thing. I'm like, no, I don't want people to... No, I don't want to be recognized for none of that. And she asked me again. She's like, come on, Anthony, please. And I'm like, I got you. All right. And look. And that's how I got it. And man, it's crazy how that turned out. But I love it today. I love it when you guys call me. I get excited when you guys call me. I want to deal with that. The things that you guys are dealing with, like the hard patient that's just playing hard to get or just being difficult, I enjoy talking to them because
you've been there.
90% of the time they listen.
Yeah.
90% of the time they listen, and I'm very raw with them. I tell them that this is not easy. It's not fun. I'm like, I say this to them all the time, and this is where I learned it too at Sharp Rehab. The first 2 years are the hardest. And you guys were not lying. It is the hardest. This is the hardest time ever because your body's going through changes. It's either going to better itself or it's going to get a little bit worse, but you're learning to adapt to the chair, and it still takes a while. Mm-hmm. With that being said, thank you, Tabitha. You guys, this is Wheal Talk. Shout out to Sharp Rehab. This was awesome. I love it. You guys, hopefully you guys take something from this. And if you feel somebody could watch this video and feel motivated by it, show it to them. If you know somebody is going through a similar situation as mine or other people, that it could be from paralysis to head trauma to whatever it is, show this video to them and just so they can see that you could get better and things could get better and that there's people out there that are willing to help you and show you what you could do. I think the most important question is ask your therapist, what do you need to do to better yourself? Stop feeling bad for yourself. Just ask them and see what they tell you and take their advice. With that being said, this is Wheal Talk, you guys. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Tabitha. Appreciate it. Thank you. If you guys like today's episode, please like, share, and subscribe. This is Wheal Talk, baby.